permit!
No pipeline!
DEQ knows what to do!
DEQ knows what to do!
No permit!
No pipeline!
No permit!
No pipeline!
No permit!
No pipeline!
Water is!
Life!
Water is!
Life!
Water is!
Life!
DEQ knows what to do!
DEQ knows what to do!
DEQ knows what to do!
Yeah, there are benefits more than people. I don't know if there's enough benefits. I went there.
Do your job! DEQ! Do your job! No permit! No pipeline! No permit! No pipeline! No permit! No pipeline! Water is life! 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 Water.
I'd like to congratulate all of you and give a heartfelt thank you to so many people coming out in the middle of a weekday, in the middle of a work day. I know many of you work the land and the weather is nice. It's tough to get away from your farms and your properties with so many nice days remaining. So mainly thank you very much to everyone for coming out and supporting this event. Thank you to the members of the media who are here to cover this. And thank you to the many volunteers who worked tirelessly over the last several weeks to put all of this together. This is organizing, it's hard work, and the rewards are tremendous. My name is Russell Chisholm. I am the Vice Coordinator for Preserve Giles County. I'm a Newport resident. Mountain Valley Pipeline is just trying to destroy my community and destroy my water. And I'm here today to stand against that and to remind Virginia DEQ that they absolutely have the authority to stop this thing by refusing to issue the 401 water certification permit. No permit? No permit?
No pipeline!
So this morning, a delegation from this group, on the advice of law enforcement, I should thank law enforcement for being here to protect our safety. Woo! Yeah. And apparently to protect the shopping center. That's a joke. But we sent a small delegation over to deliver our bill of particulars, and I would like to bring up that delegation right now to talk a little bit about what we presented and to talk about delivering it, and then we will read from that bill of particulars, and anybody who wants to step up and read a section is welcome to queue up behind me over here, and we'll read out to the crowd what we have asked DEQ to do, which is their mission. So Rick Shingles and Donna Pitt and Roberta Bondurant, our bill of particulars delegation of Southwest Virginia, and I'll hold the microphone so they can speak.
Hi, thank y'all for being here today. Louder. Okay. Okay, louder. Good. I want to thank Preserve Giles and Russell in particular for stepping up to organize this, our engagements here. Originally these last 3 days and now 2 days, out of respect for the victims of hurricanes in Houston and Florida. Yesterday was a terrific day. We appreciate the involvement of, I'm sorry, I forget your pastor's name, Carolyn, but he was really a wonderful musician, and we really appreciated his presence. And the pastors from Franklin County, I know Pastor Rick from Crossroads Community Church was here. And today, Rick Shingles has organized a letter to DEQ with the assistance of CCAN. He has also asked for a bill of particulars to be very specific about what we're asking DEQ to do. So Rick, I'm going to let you take that away and describe some of the specifics that we've asked him to take care of.
Sure. I first want to make clear that we had trouble getting access to the DEQ yesterday. We had trouble getting access to DEQ yesterday and today, and I just want to make clear why we had a problem. The DEQ office manager, when we got in, made it very clear that they expected us to come and welcomed us on our official business. That the reason we couldn't get in is because the property owner there, not his police officers, our police officers, to keep us from getting in. And it caused a problem, although the officers have been very nice. This event is taking place, I think as Russ already said, at all 7 DEQ districts across the state. What we did here, in addition to have a letter that is common to the letters in the other 6 locations, is we have a bill of particulars. We're trying to be constructive. It was meant to guide DEQ as to what our concerns are, why we have lost some faith in the way DEQ is operating, with specific recommendations as to what they can do to restore our faith. We are confident that if they were to follow those recommendations, which is their official duty, that they would reject the 401 certification. And that's the point we want to make. So we have a bill of particulars. I'll start it out very briefly, and maybe we can have people taking turns reading from this bill of particulars. The preamble is, citizens of the New River and Roanoke valleys impacted directly and indirectly by the proposed Mountain Valley Pipeline petition you, Director Paler, and your staff to conduct a full, professional, and transparent review of MVP LLC's application for 401 certification. We do so expressing significant reservations with the DEQ process to date, which has seriously eroded public confidence. Below is a list of our concerns, followed by specific requests, and we'll just rotate it from here.
Limited public review. The curtailment of the public comment period and isolated venues infringe on due process.
Can you see it?
District venues. There's been only one hearing in the Roanoke New River Valley region in Radford, a community not directly impacted by the pipeline. An inadequate timeline. The comment period opened before erosion and sedimentation plans were complete. The public was forced to comment without full erosion sedimentation information, construction plans, or completed surveys of proposed and alternative routes. DEQ has refused to extend the timeline for public comment, while the applicant has been allowed apparently unlimited time to continue to submit required information, therefore denying the public opportunity to review and respond fully.
So I'm going to say again, our experience has been that we have excellent analysts in our local offices and in our Richmond office within the DEQ. And we expect them to take responsibility for the tasks that they've been asked to handle. So part of the problem here is that what we've seen is a relinquished authority. Perhaps that's forced by an administration, a gubernatorial administration. We won't tolerate that. So this section of our Bill of Particulars would say DEQ has inappropriately relinquished permitting authority to the Corps of Engineers through acceptance of the nationwide permit A general permit which fails to study individual stream, river, and other water body crossings. Unlike DEQ, the Corps of Engineers' mission involves construction and not environmental protection and conservation, which is DEQ's stated mission. The standard under which USACE, the Corps of Engineers, will operate was not designed for supervision and regulation of the unprecedented construction of a mammoth 42-inch natural gas pipeline across nearly 4,000-foot mountains, radically steep slopes, repeatedly radically steep slopes, pristine areas and protected streams, national as well as private forests, and cleansing and renewing wetlands. Excuse me. Piecemeal review process. DEQ's review artificially isolates assessment of streams, springs, and wetlands, erosion and sedimentation, and then upland impacts. This almost leftover category of quote-unquote upland impacts to separate categories. Upland impacts seem to be something that DEQ has taken to self-define, apart from any rule or regulation. And they're being allowed to do what the administration would have it do with the concept. To separate categories, each assessed by different entities and groups of reviewers. This contrived process has, 1, effectively removed 2 of the 3 categories, erosion and sedimentation and streams and water body crossings, from full public comment. And secondly, it impairs comprehensive assessments of the impact of compound hazards and cumulative downstream effects. These 2 concepts, compound hazards and cumulative downstream effects, have been discussed by several scientists, including Castaning, Rubin, Groves, and Dodds. And these are scientists who have been advanced by local governmental bodies.
Does anybody else want to read it?
Go ahead. We'll just keep rolling.
These are requests. There are 6 requests. I'll start the list off. Number 1, either extend the review process to permit adequate public input and allow for the best practices, or instruct the applicant to withdraw its application. And if so advised, begin the process anew. This would add, if they did that, it would postpone it at 1 year. Number 2, conduct a comprehensive study of potential erosion and sedimentation for areas of identified concern, including but not limited to the Roanoke and Blackwater rivers, karst aquifers in Giles and Montgomery, steep slopes and first-order streams and tributaries from Peters Mountain and Giles through Franklin, by providing systematic, measured assessments, including both upland and downstream areas of hazards and sedimentation before, during, and after construction. Someone want to continue the list?
We reject as inadequate MVP and FERC's mitigation assessments that treat co-located geologic hazards separately, therefore failing to consider the synergy of compound effects. Multiple geologic hazards in many locations along the proposed route present complex obstacles to sound construction, contributing to excessive erosion and sedimentation and the very integrity of the gas pipelines. For example, in locations where there are both poor soils and steep slopes, winching heavy machinery from atop ridges will lead to compaction, increasing runoff, erosion and sedimentation, and exponentially impact downstream water flow and quality. Frequent moderate ground shaking in the Giles County seismic zone, like yesterday, compounds these problems. As a further example, where there are karst valleys below steep slopes, like the Giles aquifers and the Mount Tabor plain, runoff is almost certain to adversely affect the quality of water for habitat and human consumption. Again, the same scientific reports apply.
So we are asking that the Department of Health, in addition to the above requests, conduct sanitary surveys within 1,000 feet on either side of the proposed right-of-way, to be led and performed by the Commonwealth of Virginia and local health department specialists, as specifically recommended by the Department of Health of Virginia. And that memo is dated from the Office of Drinking Water, dated December 9, 2016. It was filed with the comments of the Commonwealth of Virginia, December 2016, in the FERC docket. We're asking for that DEQ conduct significant additional dye tracing, not just in karst areas, but in downslope locations, known karst areas, to determine water flows and location and size of karst systems and underground seeps, streams, and aquifers, thereby providing a more complete estimate of potential harm from construction. We're asking for an incorporation of a comprehensive review of what DEQ is calling upland impacts to our region's river basins. I'm going to move into a discussion of the integrity of DEQ's assessment. What we have seen is a shirked responsibility. In April 2017, Virginia's DEQ staff announced publicly and unequivocally it would require site-specific analysis of stream and wetland crossings, quote, in order to ensure that Virginia water quality standards are maintained in all areas affected by the projects. Folks, this was a press release sent out by Virginia's DEQ. It was a purposeful document, prepared and publicized. By May 24th, DEQ's Director of Operations stated publicly, quote unquote, "We got it wrong." And the agency did an about-face on its plan for analysis. Again, we're not pointing any particular fingers at any particular official within DEQ. This has got to be an extremely trying time to be an employee of Virginia's Department of Environmental Quality. And I'm going to excuse me, and I'm going to repeat here again that we believe that DEQ analysts, officers, and agents are capable of doing their very best work here. There are several agency heads, there are a couple in particular I can think of right now who have stepped up and really produced strong recommendations that protect issues regarding history, forests, and again, we're asking for this to happen with regard to our waters. A cautionary tale. In May 2017, the West Virginia DEP approved construction permitting following inadequate public comment and review periods. Then, last week, the DEP thought better of its decision and announced it would vacate its previous Clean Water Act Section 401 certification. Yes. And that happened through the federal courts.
Yes.
That happened through the federal courts yesterday. Whoop, whoop. The standard is this. Per Virginia's Director of Natural Resources Secretary Molly Ward, quote, "The permitting process must comply with all relevant state and federal statutory and regulatory requirements and remain impartial. And, quote, there can be no predetermined outcomes. The integrity of the agency's independent decision-making and review process is non-negotiable."
Why don't you finish it up?
The takeaways from these developments are twofold. First, that the Virginia DEQ may not stray from the guideposts of the Clean Water Act. Second, that the integrity of DEQ's process should be unwavering from the intent of the Clean Water Act and unassailable. We dutifully ask DEQ for your full and thorough professional action on our bill of particulars. And we respectfully have submitted this The citizens in the path of the proposed Mountain Valley Pipeline protect our water heritage rights and our member and partner nonprofits and communities throughout. We thank you all. Pardon me?
And all residents of Virginia.
Thank you.
All residents of
Yes,
Virginia.
thank you.
Yes, yes. You know, the water knows no boundaries. The water knows no boundary. And so we thank our West Virginia residents for joining us here today too. Thanks for making the trip.
We have
Thank you.
copies, Russell, if people want.
Well, we do have copies. If anybody would like to take the document with you, have it framed and hang it over your desk. We'll look back on it, hopefully, as a part of the process where we convinced DEQ to do their jobs. So we're pipeline fighters, we are water protectors, and we're pretty nerdy at it. We have the facts, we have science, and all this work is compiled by citizen scientists across the entire Commonwealth, and really dedicated people all along the pipeline route. So once again, thanks to everyone who had a contribution in that. I would like to create some space here to hear from some directly impacted landowners who are here. We're going to do a little pass the mic if anybody wants to step forward and talk a little bit about what your fight has been like, what's going on with your property recently, and tell the folks gathered here today what you'd like to see DEQ do for Virginia.
I got a lot going on, but I'm not going to get into that. Yeah. I'm here today to stand with all of you as we are telling and asking the DEQ to protect our water. And I brought up, this is a picture from our farm in Franklin County with our daughter in it, who is 8 years old now. She probably was 6 in this photo. And this has been our fight, everybody's fight in these communities for 3 years now. It was September 2014, at least in Franklin County, we were notified about the threat of this pipeline coming through our community. And the movement has grown and people have come together, and we are changed because of that. And I believe that we are changing and making a difference in our communities and even in our homes through our efforts. And water is a key element that needs to be defended and protected. And as we saw in Standing Rock last year, the movement of the water protector movement is growing and spreading throughout this whole country. And every single one of you, what you say and what you share to the DEQ matters. Do you know why? Because you drink water and you live in this state, you live in this region, and we must work together to protect it. And I'm so grateful for everybody being here and standing up and being on the right side of history. Thank you.
Hello?
Close to now.
Yeah,
Speak loud.
it feels awkward.
I'm Cliff Schaefer. I live in Giles County.
You gotta hold the button.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
As loud as you can directly.
I'm Cliff Schaefer. I live in Giles County, and this pipeline would go over our property. And so some of you have a sign, no eminent domain for private gain. I think most of us are pretty sensitive to this. If this was a fair market deal, then it would be our choice, but it's not our choice. They're going to compel us to give them the right of way or sell it at their price. With DEQ, I think people need to understand what happened here, that the pipeline company asked for a schedule. DEQ agreed to comply. The pipeline company was asked for required information. The pipeline company was slow. The DEQ is still trying to keep the schedule. If the pipeline company is slow at giving the information and giving DEQ time to analyze it, and they keep the same schedule, well, think what happens. Either they can't analyze it, or no one can comment on it, or both, and that's where we are. And so in West Virginia, they tried to do that, and essentially the court told them, no, you've got to do it right, because there's rules to this. That's the one thing that these government agencies can't do. They can't violate their own rules. That's a thing we have working for us. And in this case, West Virginia violated their own rules, and our argument is that DEQ is violating its own rules, and they can fix it now or they can fix it later.
Thank you. All right.
Looking at you, Don. Yeah, come on up. Little black.
No permit! No pipeline!
Yeah, thanks to everybody for coming out today supporting this fight. My name's Don Jones. We have property in Giles County, Virginia, and it's been in the family for a long, long time. We've been fighting this thing for 2.5 years or so now, and we need to get DEQ to realize that they have a job to do, and it's to protect us and our water. And with everybody coming together and telling them, hopefully we can make a difference and get them to do their job and protect us. Shouldn't be a balancing act trying to please a company over citizens. They should just look out after us. And we can win this if we all stay together, stay focused. You know, you keep thinking it's going to get easier, but instead it just keeps getting harder. We've got a ways to go yet, but we can win this if we all stick together.
Yes, we can.
Thank y'all.
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can do it.
Thank you, Don. Couldn't agree more.
How are we on time?
It's getting about 1 o'clock. Anybody else wants to step up and speak? Come on up.
I need a lesson.
Yep. So the real trick is to hold it as close to your mouth as you can and shout into it.
I'm a teacher, but I needed a lesson. I talk to children a lot easier than adults, so bear with me. I'm Roberta Johnson. My husband is Robert Johnson, Bob, and we live on Bent Mountain. We tried to park at the parking lot at DEQ this morning and got accosted. And Bob pointed out that we had documents to deliver to Regional Director Weld, and that Bob was a 30-year employee of DEQ, a retired senior environmental engineer, and he wanted to say hello to some of his friends in the office. We were not allowed to go in. But Director Weld came down to us in the parking lot, and we had a great face-to-face, and he said he understood that this was not a violent group, that it was not his choice that we couldn't come there today. Anyway, we delivered 2 documents. I resonated with your claim about the nerds, because we spend our time with our noses in the appendices. And if you've ever visited the appendices of the final environmental impact statement, you know what I'm talking about. We're trying to hold them to the letter of the law. Bob knows the regulations, and I get lost in the numbers and have a good time. On Bent Mountain alone, there are 80 stream and wetlands crossings in 6 miles. That's one crossing about every 400 feet. None of them alone qualifies for mitigation because they don't look at cumulative impacts. Worse yet is that the watershed on Bent Mountain, not only being a source of water for the Roanoke Valley, it is also a Tier 3 watershed. Tier 3 streams in the state of Virginia are supposed to be the most highly protected in the whole state. There are only 34 streams in Virginia with that classification. No, the classified portion is not crossed by the pipeline itself, but the water that creates this Tier 3 stream
comes from Poor Mountain and Bent Mountain. And all those crossings I just mentioned are going to impact its water quality in every way. Anyway, Bob co-authored a paper with David Sly and several other very prominent scientists, and it has been delivered to FERC and DEQ, but we wanted Mr. Weld to have it in his possession today, and that's what we delivered to him, along with comments about how Bent Mountain will not benefit economically from this project. And that's one of the things in the regs, in the anti-degradation policy, that's supposedly supposed to be upheld. For high quality streams, the benefit has to come back to that location. And it does not. Will not.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Bridget Kelly Deary and I'm from Rockbridge County. I'm right in the middle of the pipeline, so I'm fighting them both, as all of us are, I'm sure. We're today here about the DEQ, but I wanted to make an announcement that there is a protest in Washington, D.C. on September 20th at FERC. They're hoping to get a lot of people there. We all know that FERC rubber stamps these pipelines, and I just want to read just a quick thing about what the, I'm sorry, hold on, I just lost it. Here it is. I'm shaking.
Okay.
Hold it. A quorum has been restored at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, with the confirmation of Trump's two nominees, Robert Powelson and Neil Chatterjee. By adding these pro-fossil fuel commissioners to FERC, the abuses of power will only continue and get worse as they carry out Trump's dirty energy agenda. All of this is happening as the Senate and House are moving bills that would expand FERC's authority. One of the House bills actually strips the president of the border crossing authority used to stop Keystone XL and gives it to FERC. But the worst of the bills is the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Act of 2017, S 1460. It expands FERC's authority by requiring other permitting agencies to give deference to FERC, and it limits FERC's review of liquid natural gas facilities to 45 days. FERC will be back to holding monthly meetings, starting with the meeting they've scheduled for Wednesday, September 20th. We need to be there in big numbers that day to let FERC and Congress know that the direction they plan to take the country is unacceptable and that we won't tolerate it. Rushed approvals, refusal to consider climate impacts, approvals with insufficient information, and Congress wants to expand FERC's authority. No way, unacceptable. If you can be there on September 20th at FERC in D.C., be there.
Thank you.
Work to do. We'll be all eyes on FERC, of course, but continue to make calls, continue to speak to the media, write letters to editors, anything you can to continue to put that focus and pressure on the Virginia DEQ to do the job.
Are we walking over there?
No.
We do not.
I received advice from Roanoke law enforcement that the proper